welcome to CMO Insights, the podcast series. I'm your host, Jeff Pedowitz, President and CEO of the Pedowitz Group. Today, as our guest, we have Nikhil Behl, who is Chief Marketing Officer for FICO. Nikhil, welcome to the program.
Jeff, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
So FICO is a very well-known brand, but I'm not sure that everyone knows about all the various things that FICO does and the partnerships that you've started. Maybe we could just briefly catch us up.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity to cover that, Jeff. We are an iconic brand in many ways. And, most people know about the FICO score, and it is the leading credit decisioning score, at least in the US and in over 40 countries around the world. But similar to our scores business, we have an equally successful and similarly sized analytics software business that really enables enterprises to make better decisions and operationalize those decisions to drive better outcomes. We call it applied intelligence. It's really taking your data, applying advanced analytics to that data to derive insights, and then operationalizing those insights through decisions to drive outcomes. And transformed entire industries with this approach. Most people don't even realize it, but they interact with a FICO-powered solution almost on a daily basis. If you used your credit card today, you were protected by a FICO solution. If you opened a bank account recently or any type of credit product in the US, your financial institution more than likely used a FICO solution in order to power that as well. So, we've been very fortunate to be in this business for a long time and to bring advanced analytics and artificial intelligence and machine learning to operationalized results to drive beneficial outcomes for our customers for decades at this point.
That's fantastic. So you've been there now for about 10 years as a CMO, and you've had really a front row seat into how much digital's impacted and changed the role of the CMO. But you did just mention everything that you're doing with AI, data analytics, and I understand how that definitely impacts your product strategy, but maybe you could share how you're applying it to your go-to-market.
Sure. Let me give you maybe just a wee bit of background to this. Prior to coming into FICO as CMO, I was general manager or CEO of a number of different businesses over the course of the last few decades before that. And I think I've come to this role with a slightly different perspective than maybe a lot of other CMOs, not having grown up necessarily in the CMO chair. I tend to think of our business in a much more of a holistic and sort of general manager approach. And my objectives are really to help our broader organization deliver on its broad-based results, whether that's revenue, profitability, customer satisfaction, long-term retention rates, and so forth. And that's really my first perspective. My first perspective always is, hey, how are we going to be driving our business forward? And I think of my role then in really three different ways. It's really about amplifying our brand, amplifying our message, amplifying our value proposition into the marketplace. It's about activating our organization holistically, as well as any partners that we work with, to enable them to, in essence, accomplish what their objectives are. And the third one is to really accelerate our path to results. So it's about amplifying, it's about activating, and it's about accelerating. Those are the three things that I think about. Now, every one of those things in today's world is data dependent, and you can apply intelligence to that data to derive outcomes. Whether that is, who we actually target, using data to inform what that actually looks like, and deriving intelligence from that data to do that. So, for example, we used to target a very specific persona type, and the incoming intelligence started to tell us, hey, you're starting to see a much more varied sense of folks that are coming to our websites, for example, or that are engaging with us through our different touch points. And using that, we came to the realization that there are 5 persona types that we actually need to target, no longer a single persona type. So, for example, we used to look at the chief risk officer in a financial institution, and we no longer do that. We now look at the chief risk officer, we look at the chief analytic officer or the analytic functions, we look at the IT functions, we look at a business lead, and we look at digital transformation. And so it's really broadened significantly, but that happened because we looked at the early signals coming from our digital channels and using those signals to start to change how we were focused on somebody, all the way from that to how we target them, where we target them, being hyper sophisticated, using intelligence that we have access to, and monitoring the response rates from that to continue to hone it. So if you look at our return on investment, for every dollar invested, how many dollars we derive in revenue, it's gone up exponentially over the course of the last decade because of using intelligence and data in getting a lot better in who we target, how we target, what messages we target them with, how are we honing those messages using that information that's coming back to us, and continuing that process. All that said, Jeff, I don't want us to sort of leave this conversation thinking, hey, digital is the only way to go, because I believe that digital is a good force multiplier, but there's nothing that really surpasses old school face-to-face, building relationships with people and maintaining those relationships in an effective and authentic way. Digital is an enabler, it's a force multiplier, but it doesn't replace that.
That's absolutely the truth. So you talk a lot about using data, and I think if you ask any CMO, they want to be data-driven executive, but the reality is it's quite challenging for many because of all the silos of systems. And what's your advice? Since you're in this field, you use it internally, your company's all about the data. What could an everyday CMO do to get a better handle so they can make data-driven decisions?
Yeah, having been in this role for a decent period of time, certainly longer than I thought I would, and more.
You're definitely bringing up the average. I think a recent report came out and said it's below 4 years now. So thank you.
I have had the luxury of thinking about our business and investing in our business, not from a short-term perspective, but having a slightly longer horizon in mind. And we've been able to make investments as a consequence that enable us to derive value from it over a period of time. And so, part of that is just thinking about systems, right? And thinking about this from a systems view and looking at, how these things are built on top of each other with inherent connectivity built into them. In many cases, we've actually built solutions that are off the same platform in many ways, or utilizing open source platforms out there that then connect up with each other. So that we're not band-aiding these things together later. That our objective right off the front, right off the bat, came from that, and a lot of that comes from starting to really lay out, where do I want to be? What do I want the outcomes to look like? And then working backwards from there, thinking about what do we need to put in place in order to derive or to deliver on those outcomes. So I'll give you an example. A lot of folks go out and purchase CMSs. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. As long as your CMS is tightly integrated into your deployment engines, right? So, we use an open source engine that drives our website and a lot of our digital channels. Our CMS is built on the same platform. And so it's very deeply integrated into that. And we have the ability to then publish directly from there into our customer-facing assets. And today, one of the things we're doing is we're creating hyper-personalized microsites, or I wouldn't even call it a microsite. Actually, we're taking our website and we're personalizing those websites for each of our enterprise customers. That would be very expensive to do if you were coding that by hand every single time.
Sure would.
Our objective right off the bat was, hey, we want to do that. We want to get to that. So how do we build our systems that enables us to do that in a hyper-personalized experience, but in a scalable and efficient and cost-effective way? And by having a CMS that's tightly integrated into that, and our organizations working in the same toolkit, it really enables us to do this and do it well and do it in a sustainable way. So, it doesn't age, it doesn't become expensive by throwing bodies at it to fix. We have the ability to keep it updated and maintained and fresh, and deliver real value to the end customer, versus a good idea that seems like a great idea, and then you do it, and then you're like, supporting this was a lot harder than I thought.
So you talked about CMS and the website and personalizing the experience there. Shifting over into analytics and decision support, what kind of tools do you use for next best action and doing advanced analytics?
We're very fortunate that we're an analytics software company, and our primary product that we take to market from a software perspective is FICO Platform. We believe FICO Platform is the best platform on the planet that allows organizations to take data, and it could be any form of data, address data, streaming data, data from different sources, internal data, external data, blend it all, bring it in. You don't necessarily have to spend your time in building data lakes. We have the ability to actually bring that data in from multiple sources, and then leveraging that data really by applying very sophisticated analytic capabilities to it. And again, you can have your own analytic capabilities. You can use our analytic capabilities. You can have a third party's analytic capabilities, whether that's AI or machine learning or prescriptive analytics or predictive analytics, and deriving insights from that. And then importantly, taking those insights and operationalizing them into workflows to drive outcomes. That end-to-end value chain, there's a lot of people that do data well. There's a lot of people that do analytics well. There's a lot of people that do, workflows really well. We don't believe that anybody does all of them as well as we do. And importantly, is able to connect the entire value chain at scale with low latency the way we do. And our primary value propositions for doing that is actually driving next best action and managing the entire customer lifecycle. And that is one of our value propositions. That is one of the things.
You guys are definitely drinking your own champagne then.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So I couldn't help but notice your shirt that you're wearing. So for those of you that are listening, Nikhil's wearing a Chelsea Football Club shirt. So I think you guys have a sponsorship with the team, yeah?
That's right. We've been fortunate to partner closely with Chelsea, especially during the summer tour that just concluded. They played 5 games in the U.S. across 5 different cities, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Unless you're a Ted Lasso fan, you're probably not going to be rooting for Chelsea. So what was it? What was in the data that led you guys to decide to invest in this partnership?
Chelsea is a renowned brand. They're known around the world. They have almost 500 million followers. They're one of the best soccer football teams on the planet. And they were coming out to the U.S. Their last tour of the U.S. had over 25 million viewers. Their social media engagement across the U.S. was similar, and they've only grown since then. So we were really excited to partner with them on a really important topic. On our scores side of the house, we've been the score of choice for most major U.S. banks in making lending decisions, whether that's for a credit card or a mortgage or a car loan, et cetera. But what we found, Jeff, is that while we as a company have always been hyper-focused on driving financial inclusion and financial independence across the U.S., what we found is that the data shows the thing we really need to focus on is financial literacy. And the reason for it is that when you look at the research that's been done, the research is showing that 1 in 5 young adults or teenagers lack basic personal finance skill sets and knowledge. Almost 2/3 of young adults lack confidence in their financial understanding. And a number of groups out there are really calling this an epidemic, because as these young adults mature, there are some research out there that actually shows that over $400 billion worth of negative impact to the economy from folks not understanding basic personal finance understanding.
So does this partnership then allow you to bridge that gap and get in front of people that otherwise you wouldn't have?
That's exactly right. So we've taken the opportunity of this partnership to do something about that and to bring a tremendous amount of visibility to this problem. And we want to tackle this problem in many different ways. With Chelsea, very specifically, we partnered with them. We partnered with the U.S. Soccer Foundation. And in each of the 5 cities that they went to, we ran 2 different literacy programs. One was for young adults, where we brought teenagers, middle schoolers and high schoolers in and actually did some basic fundamentals of personal finance courses for them. So they understood simple things like, what's a checking account? What's a savings account? What's credit? You'll be surprised, Jeff, how few folks actually know that when you charge something in your credit card, you've got to pay it back. Basic things like that. And then we, of course, brought in Chelsea players that helped engage that that young adult, that teenager, and got them interested in the topic. And we brought them out to the game, so there was some fun involved in it as well. And in addition to that, we ran a separate set of literacy programs and counseling programs in partnership with national organizations like Operation Hope that provided literacy and education, as well as personal counseling for adults that wanted to better their credit position or needed to solve a problem that they were facing. And some of them were able to come to the games as well. We've been doing this for a bit now, especially the adult programs. We've done it in dozens of cities across the US over the last few years. We want to scale that. But Jeff, at the end of the day, that is one way of solving this problem and bringing visibility to it. The problem is we've got to get this into our schools. We've built a curriculum that we would love to donate to school districts and to states and others, so they can bring it into the curriculum. More than half the states do not require personal finance education or personal finance literacy programs in high schools, and we really need to change that. We've got to get financial literacy into high schools to better and deeper the understanding of our kids, to give them the tools, the knowledge, the capabilities to be sophisticated about, to have a basic understanding, forget sophisticated, right? About, hey, what is personal finance? What is investing? How should I be thinking about this? So that they can lead, empowered and financially independent lives.
I love how passionate you are about this topic, and but it's such an important one too. For those that are listening and or watching, how can we get involved? How can we support this?
I think many different levels. Number one, if you have kids at home, have the conversation with them. Help them actually understand that. It's remarkable. Like even for myself, so much of personal finance is something that we're fairly private about, right? And I realized that I was not really doing my kids any benefits by not helping them understand basic things. So talk to them about, hey, what is a checking account? What's a savings account? Set one up for them. Talk to them about what is money? How does money work? What is credit? How do you pay back credit? Or why do you need to pay back credit? We've got a number of tools available on myfico.com that folks can go out and take advantage of. Speak to your schools. Ask your schools: are they teaching your children? How can they bring this into those schools so that we can help our kids with this from a school perspective, building it into the curriculum? Talk to your elected officials. Ask them, why is this not part of the school curriculum? What can they do to get this into a school curriculum? So many different ways in which folks can help here.
Fantastic. So amazing that you and FICO are doing something so wonderful for our community. And it's easy to see why you've been there for 10 years, Nikhil. Thank you again for being
Jeff.
on the program.
Thanks, Jeff. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity here, and great chatting with you.
You got it.